Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sentinel Sports Extra, Cleveland Guardians Weekly Report. No analytics here for May 12th, 2025. Last week, we'll get this out of the way first. Last week, I predicted that the Guardians would go 3-3 last week, and they went 3-3. And it kind of went like I thought. I figured they would take at least 2 out of 3 in Washington and possibly lose 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. And that's exactly so. But, it wasn't a terrible week. The bullpen, basically just Joey Cantillo, imploded on Saturday night. Came in with a 1-0 lead, or they were losing 1-0. All he needed to do is get 1 out in the 8th inning, and he absolutely imploded. And the Phillies ended up scoring 6 runs in the inning. And I don't mean to sound harsh, but I think Joey is back to Joey. He's back to Joey Cantillo. And I don't see a lot of upside with this guy. I know they love him. They love him. There have been guys in the past they love too that hadn't panned out. But I don't know. He started off well this year. He did. I'll give him that. But Saturday night was only a matter of time. And I think you're going to see Saturday night more than you're going to see what he did the first, 5 weeks. But I'm going to focus on the negative. They went to Washington and they took 2 out of 3. The run differential was a positive. For the season, the run differential now is minus 17. They've scored 164 runs and they've given up 181. The 181 concerns me more than the 164. They're now 24, I believe 24 and 16 is the record. 23 and 17. Sorry about that. They have the same record as the Yankees. Everybody always wants to bring up the Yankees. They have the same record as the Yankees. The American League Central has the most wins in baseball. The American League Central has the most wins of any division in baseball, and the American League Central has a winning record in head-to-head games against the American League East. We know the American League East is always the greatest division in, baseball, if not sports. So there's that for you. But the Guardians' run differential is still minus 17, which is concerning. I think that'll change in the next couple of weeks. By the end of May, they'll be over that. I think the pitching's starting to come around. Clases look better the last week, so that's huge. They lost 2 out of 3. They only scored 1 run in the last 2 games. But crap, they lost last night 1-0 or 3-0. So, it's not like they got blown out by the Phillies. The Phillies scored 10 runs in the series. The Guardians scored 7. So, it was a close series run differential rise. So, but I guess if you look at it for the week, they were a +6. They were 2-1 on the road, 1-2 at home. So, they haven't lost a lot of series at home. I'm thinking 2. I could be wrong about that, but I'm thinking 2. They're 12-7 at home. They're now over 500 on the road. They're 11-10. So, but of course, Will Leach, who writes for MLB.com, dropped them in the power rankings to 12. The Yankees, who have the same record as the Guardians and are in a weaker division. The American League East is weaker than the Central. He has them 6 spots higher than the Guardians. And, of course, he moved the Kansas City Royals ahead of the Guardians. I bet it was killing him. And I bet he was tempted to move the Twins ahead of the Guardians, too. This guy, I mean, I'm telling you something. This guy is a joke. You know, he doesn't have a clue. He doesn't have a clue. He does have the Tigers second, which is great because he has the Tigers probably. Oh, he has him third. I'm stunned that he has him ahead of his sainted Mets. But there's probably like a job rule at MLB Network. You have to have the Yankees and the Mets in the top 10. You have to, no matter what. So, the Yankees, he's got the Yankees 7. So they're 5 spots ahead of the Guardians with the same record, which makes no sense. He moved the Royals up 5 spots. They had a 7-game winning streak. Okay, but I still think the Guardians are better than them. They've taken 4 of 6 from them. But this is great. He says that they went 14-8 over the 3-week period. That stretch may have saved the Guardians' season. The Guardians are the number 1 wild card team right now. They are the number 1 wild card team. And they're only 2.5 games behind the Tigers, who, everyone seems to love now. They seem to love the Tigers, who, by the way, lost to the Guardians in the wild card series last year, or the divisional series last year. But somehow, they're better now. But and they are 2.5 ahead. I'll give them that. But they will play the Guardians at some point, and we'll see. They got 13 games against each other. Those are going to be huge games this year. So what we got coming up here in the week. Let's talk about Brian Rocchio first. I think that Gabriel Arias, pretty much he's taken the shortstop job. He's gonna take the shortstop job now. And Daniel Sneeman's also in that equation where he's played well enough where he could play second base almost every day. So Rocchio's out of luck. Rocchio was at 250 on April 21st. In 36 plate appearances since then, he has had 1 hit. He's now hitting 165, and he spent a lot of time on the bench, along with John Kenzie Noel. But don't get me started on that one because he's bench. John, you cannot have a power hitter play once or twice a week and expect him to be successful. You just can't do it. It seems like when he does get a start, he can go 2 for 4 and benched again. They are in love with Nolan Jones. I want someone to explain to me. I'm going to say it every week on here. I want someone in that organization to explain to me why they traded for Nolan Jones, traded one of the best clubhouse guys, Tyler Freeman, for Nolan Jones, who they got rid of 2 years ago because he wasn't good enough. Why they traded for Nolan Jones. And let's just be honest here and let's be frank with our wording. That move screwed over Will Brennan, and it screwed over John Kenzie Noel. Brennan, after being told he made the team, gets sent to Columbus then, 4 hours after they told him he made the team. Really bad move. Bad for the clubhouse. That's not a good clubhouse. There's not a good clubhouse feeling after that kind of shit happens. Sorry, there isn't. Also, John Kenzie Noel. I think in postseason last year, he proved he deserved a shot. I know he strikes out a lot, but Nolan Jones strikes out at a higher rate. And he's a worse defender. But somehow reason, they love Nolan Jones. There must be some obscure analytics stats somewhere that Nolan Jones is better than John Kenzie's Noel. It's ridiculous. So there that is. I think Arias has won the shortstop job. I think he's the shortstop. I think he's going to be the shortstop for a while now. I think he's earned the job. As much as I wasn't a fan of him before this year, he seems like he's finally taken that step that he needed to take like 3 years ago. But he's played, great defensively, and he's hitting really well. So, I mean, what can you do? How can you take him out of there? You can't. Just because you want to give Rocchio a shot? Well, why are you going to give Rocchio a shot if you won't give John Kenzie Noel a shot? You know what I mean? But I kind of feel bad for Rocchio, but he's just not cutting the mustard. And he had a fair shot, too. Noel hasn't had near the shot that Rocchio has. So what do we got for the upcoming week? We have the Brewers, the Milwaukee Brewers in town, starting tomorrow night. They will be in town, and they are 4-6 in their last 10 contests. They did win yesterday. The game times are. Geez, boy, I'm an idiot. For some reason, I thought they had the day off today. They have the day off Thursday. It's a travel day. So tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Tonight and tomorrow are 6:10. And then Wednesday is Businessman Special, 1:10 p.m. Eastern at Progressive Field. And then they have the day, which they'll always need, because I'm sure in these 3 games, Vogt will go to the bullpen 12 to 15 times, even if he doesn't have to. I'm not going to harp on that today. I'm not going to. There'll be plenty of time to harp on that in another. Then they go to Cincinnati for 3 games, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. For Friday and Saturday are 6:40 starts, and then Sunday will be at 1:40. The Reds are 3-7 in their last 10, and they lost yesterday. So that's what you got for the upcoming week. The 2 teams, they given up the same amount of runs as the Guardians, but they have scored 20 more than the Guardians, so their run differential is a little better. They played 1 more game, though. And the Reds, they've scored 34 more than the Guardians, and they've given up, and they are 20-22. So in that NL Central, which is not as good as the AL Central, I want to make that clear. They're not as good as the AL Central. The best record in Major League Baseball is the AL Central, even with the White Sox. Even with the White Sox, who do not have the worst record in baseball, that belongs to the Colorado Rockies, who fired Bud Black on Saturday, it's a joke. How about you give Bud Black, some players to work with? That might be nice. That might be nice. Like, he deserved to get fired. Come on. And Derek Shelty, with the Pirates, he didn't deserve to get fired either. Both crap organizations. Okay. From the owner, the owners, they're both crappy. They're crappy. When are the Rockies ever going to be good? That's a pretty good sized market. They could spend money. They're a crappy organization. They're even a crappier organization than the Pirates, because they don't spend a lot of money, and they can spend money because they're a bigger market. The Pirates, that owner's a cheap son of a bitch too. Especially what he did with the Roberto Clemente. But I think that, I usually give my predictions for the week. It's a 6-game week. I've been right 3 weeks in a row. I have 4-2, 5-2, 3-3. I said. Then we got the Reds. We got the Brew Crew. We do. I'd like to say 4-2, but I also think 3-3. But I'm going to say we're going to get back on track. I could be wrong, but I'm going to say 5-1. They're going to sweep one of these two teams. I think so. I think they're going to sweep one of the two. I'm thinking they sweep the Reds maybe on the road in Cincinnati. Cincinnati was a bartender on the old Daniel Boone show. He was. And when I was a kid, I thought, oh, that's who Cincinnati's named after. Probably not, but hey, when you're a kid, you think these things. But I think they could. I feel like they could go into Cincinnati and sweep the former manager's Reds. I think that the Brewers. I feel like they might lose a game to the Brewers, but they should take 2 of 3. I called them the former manager, so they're playing the Reds later in the week. Let's talk about Terry Francona. I've had this theory. I wrote a commentary on it immediately after the trade deadline. And what I said would happen, happened. But we honestly don't know if it happened, why I said it would happen. But I said right after the trade deadline, when I wrote this commentary, beginning of August, I wrote that Terry Francona would resign at the end of the year. Or retire, which he claimed it was a retirement. Everyone bought in that it was health, and it might have been health. Some of it might have been health, but I think it was more he just couldn't do it anymore with the some of the moves the front office made. I feel like if they could convince the Dolans would go after guys at the trade deadline, but that trade deadline in 2023 was a joke. Yeah, they got Kyle Manzardo. Okay, they did, and he's having a good year. But they were 1 game out of first place. Your GM and team president don't have to come down to when you're out of town and talk to the team at the trade deadline unless the manager was not happy with it. Okay, so I think that that played a huge role in him leaving. I'm not surprised he's back. Cincinnati's probably a good landing spot for him because they have some talent. And but I do believe that he had no intention of staying retired, and he just couldn't take it anymore. And Brad Mills is with him there in Cincinnati. So they're a good combination. The Reds and their fans are really lucky to have him, but the Guardians have done well. They made the playoffs last year with Stephen Vogt as a rookie. I get on Vogt about John Kenzie Noel and the use of the bullpen, but he's made a lot of good moves too. He replaced Terry Francona, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So that was tough. So this will be the first time they face each other. It'll be interesting. I got to admit, I'm not looking forward to when they come here. I'm not. He left. He retired. They gave him all this fanfare when he retired. Okay, play your video when he comes back, because I know that's the in millennial thing now, to play the thank you video to. I mean, I've seen it played for guys that played for a team for like 2 weeks. Like, are you kidding me? But yeah, play that, and the crowd can give him a hand, but he's not with us anymore. He's not with us anymore. He chose to retire, and then he took another job. So he's not with us anymore. That's my opinion on this. I don't hate him. I'm thankful for what he did here, but he's not here anymore. I'm not saying boo him, but give him a good hand at the beginning, and then let's move on. Let's move on, okay? He's not here anymore. Stephen Road is our manager, like it or not. There's days I don't like it, but, like it or not. He's done a good job, even though I disagree with him on certain things. But so that series is coming up, but they are in Cincinnati this week. The Brewers are 20-21. The Reds are 20-22. They're, I believe, third. Yeah, they're third and fourth in the NL Central, and I'll mention it again. The NL Central, that's not as good as the AL Central. The AL Central is the best division in baseball at this point, but they still will get no respect because it's pretty much, aside from the White Sox, it is a small market division. So the networks, Fox, ESPN, they don't care about it. MLB Network, they don't care about the AL Central. It's great though. The Twins right now are a half game out of the third wild card spot. How much would the network executives lose their minds if 4 teams from the AL Central made the playoffs? 4. That would be amazing. I mean, I know we're only in May and we're 1/4 of the way gone, and a lot could change and will change. But the Twins are a half game out of the AL Central sending 4 teams to the postseason. It would be so good. ESPN they'd probably end their contract before the end of the season. They'd be like, we're not doing postseason now. We can't do this. Fox would have a stroke. Their Yankee Red Sox pre- and post-game show, they might actually have to do some research into the rosters because really the only players they know Tariq Skubal on the Tigers. They know Jose Ramirez and Shane Bieber on the Guardians. And they know Bobby Witt Jr., on the Royals. But somebody's alarm's going off. But so those are the players they know. They would have to do some research. Well, they know Carlos Correa too because they love the Astros. But they know like 5-6 players from the division. So like Alex Rodriguez, and they'd lose their minds. Could you imagine Alex Rodriguez having to talk about 4 AL Central teams? It would be so great. Derek Jeter, he'd snob his nose at it. Probably wouldn't say anything. I'll say David Ortiz would probably be the one who gives the division the credit it deserves. He's pretty fair. I like David Ortiz on Fox because he keeps it light. Rodriguez and Jeter act like it's like they're curing cancer during the pre- and post-game show. At least David Ortiz realizes it's a game. So we'll see. By the end of tonight, we could have 4 teams. 4 out of the 6 playoff teams could be from the AL Central, the best division in baseball right now. I'd like you to know that, Will Leach. But I think that's it. I think that's it right now. I think we're going to be done for today. We'll see you next week on the Sentinel Sports Extra Cleveland Guardians Weekly Report. No analytics here. And hopefully my 5-1 prediction is true. And that will, hopefully help the Guardians maybe move into first place and stave off the Royals, who are right with them, and the Twins, who are only, I believe, 3.5 behind. So until next week, if you watch the Cavs, go Cavs. Let's salvage this thing. And I will have a Sentinel Sports Extra pregame and postgame tomorrow night from Rocket Arena. But until then, have a good night, everybody, and go Guardians.